Good afternoon, everybody. How are all of you? I am just heartened to be here in person with all of you dressed up, right? Come on, that does deserve, indeed, that does deserve an applause. I am honored to be here, humbled with these two luminaries. But first, I want to thank you all for coming and getting dressed up. And I put on a tie. I haven't put on a tie for 18 months. 18 months, and luckily I went to 4 weddings this past summer. Everyone was like clamoring for parties, and I got a new tie. I don't really need to add my 100 ties, but you know, it was just nice to go shopping. It's so weird to to be able to go out and see our colleagues. And I want to thank you all, and especially the NYRS Executive Committee. Can you stand up if you're part of the Executive Committee? There are a couple of them here, right? Oh, 3 of them here. So that's Sarah, Shirley, Miles. You go to them. If you're not a member yet, you go to those 3, because I don't know much, and I'm going to be talking to these guys a lot, so I'll be talked out by the time it's ended. I also want to recognize Reuveni, which is, NYRS is an arm of Reuveni. Sarah's here, there she is. Could you stand up? Now, Sarah Henkind, please be kind to her because she's only been here for a couple of weeks, right? So you know, I know I already got like complaints. It's not on the Reuveni calendar. It's this. What are you? You know, I said, luckily Sarah's gonna be there. Please talk to her, right? So, but be kind because we want her to stay for a long time. And the other thing is, I want to recognize that we are being sponsored by the developers. So. Thank them. Thank Shlomi, his marketing team, MD. What's you're pointing over there? What's? Okay. Yes, the sponsors. Go ahead. Introduce yourself. I'm sorry. I don't.
Let me just interject for a second.
Go
we
ahead.
have 2 sponsors. This space is owned by a company called Elcor. 25 Broad is an amazing building, and we're sitting in one of the penthouses. And they accommodated us by giving us this space for this event. The delicious food you're eating and the beautiful drinks you're drinking, and I should say, I said it to someone else before, this content here is going to be really hard. You should grab a drink. But the drinks and the food are sponsored by First Republic. Scott is responsible for all that. Thank you very much, Scott. That's Scott in the back.
Scott.
For those of you who don't know First Republic and don't know Scott, he's the person to talk to when you need a mortgage. If you can't get it anywhere else, he'll get it at better terms.
Fantastic. Miles,
Sorry.
Sarah, Shirley, let's talk to First Republic. Sounds like you guys could be good partners with NYRS. Thank you for sponsoring. And then lastly, I want to thank these 2. For ladies first, I want to introduce Diane Ramirez. I was just speaking with her just 2 minutes ago. I said, remember when I interviewed you before podcasts? It was, I don't even remember, but I posted it somewhere. I don't even know where it lives now, but it's somewhere on the internet.
Somewhere.
You know, it was an hour interview, and I got...
the only thing that's not living.
Right. That's right. That's right. So we got to watch what we say. But she's been a friend, a colleague, a confidant, a mentor for a couple of decades now. It is an incredible, you know, COVID it has laid bare some of our weaknesses, yes. But it has also exposed how much we are all a family, isn't that right? It is, I missed seeing Diane and all of you and Shlomi. But she founded Halstead. She also spearheaded the transition with Brown Harris Stevens and Halstead coming together. And as if I thought, okay, she's going to be retiring at Tara, and she's just, you know, this is her swan song, right? Nope, went to Berkshire. So she's now the chief strategist at Berkshire. I mean, after decades of that, I'm just saying it, I'm exhausted. I'm so glad that she's here. Thank you for being here, Ms. Diane Ramirez, everyone. And then my good friend Shlomi Reuveni, I've known him for a long time. I really got to know him. I remember when we went to Florida, Miami, went to see all these new developments. It was phenomenal. And we partied, and then a couple of years later, he invites me to his wedding. You know, my family couldn't come. They had commitments, but I said, I'm not going to pass a wedding in Tel Aviv. I partied the hardest ever in my life.
I have pictures.
But he's been in the business for over 30 years. He is known in the new development world as one of the experts that get things done when somebody else could not, right? The first time I met him, he did a presentation, what they do in pre-development, during development, and at closing. It's just one of those things. He's a consummate professional. He's thorough, deliberate, measured in everything he does. The marketing is phenomenal. And one of the things that he was my guest on a continuing ed, and he said, yeah, in that building I made a mistake, turned it around, and sold it out. I thought it's one of the most humble, vulnerable things he said, but that's what makes him great. Ladies and gentlemen, Shlomi Reuveni, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
So we are about navigating through this new normal, right? So the first question that I want to ask you is, the New York Times last week said that more apartments were sold in Manhattan in the third quarter, in Q3. And remember, Q3 is over the summer, and also with the Jewish holidays, right? But more apartments were sold in the 32 years, in 3 decades. Is this the latest sign that New York City real estate is in a recovery mode, faster than expected? I'm sure you both felt this in your firms. I'll tell you some more statistics. We sold with bidding wars, not as much as in 2015. 2015, there were 31%, and it went into bidding war. This time, 6.8%, but we still felt that. So are we going to end Q4 at a record-breaking numbers like that? Are we going to see perhaps next year a seller's market? Let's start with Diane and then Shlomi.
Okay. Well, I think a lot of it was pent-up demand.
Yes.
You know, when you say third quarter, it was, my recollection is closed. So when you think of it, it's really about 4 months before. And by my calculation, I think the absolute bottom of the market was probably right around December. And anytime the consumer sees that there is value out there, you're going to get that pent-up demand. People weren't moving, they did want to move. You had, you know, an increase in consumer confidence, and so that you had deals happening. And that's what I think we saw in the third quarter. It was that pent-up demand of apartments, and it was the best it was in, what, 3 decades.
Yep.
So, and there was bidding wars, but I think that was probably more on the low end. So if you were priced well, and it is truly, it still is, in my opinion, a value market, and you're going to have consumer confidence continuing. I do think, though, these kinds of markets, it's fits and starts. You feel a surge of it, and then for whatever reason, the buyers quiet down, and then they surge again. It's almost like the, you know, a faucet. You turn it on, you turn it off. And I think that's what we're going to see through the fourth quarter and into 2022. Fits and starts, but that's all good as long as it fits.
Yeah, there was so much in the inventory,
Yes.
right, that it got absorbed fast.
Yes.
And I remember one of the properties that we were representing on Fifth Avenue in the 90s, it broke records. We went into contract, we're closing next week. It went into contract, highest ever sold in that building. So everyone hired us, got more listings in the building, to copy that. And we couldn't copy it. Number one, that property that broke a record was in immaculate condition. Sellers spent a lot of money inside and outside the walls. And we said that. The others could, so it's about value,
Yes.
right? and nobody has the stomach anymore to renovate. Are you seeing that new development as well?
Yeah, for sure. The article you mentioned, more apartments in the past 30 years, is that for closed or signed contracts?
For closed,
Okay.
right?
So-
But also, we're seeing that as signed contracts. I saw that in the Ocean report
Right,
as well.
so closed is not necessarily an indication of market conditions today, right? The indications of market conditions today is really signed contracts. What's the activity today? What's signed today? What's gone into contract and came off market? Who made a decision today, or in the past week, or in the past month? I mean, yeah, the conditions that we're experiencing today, in my experience, I have not seen this since I started in the business, and that goes back to 1986. I had never seen conditions like this. Now, the pent-up demand is definitely here, and that's only one of the reasons. There are many reasons why we're seeing this almost like what could possibly become the perfect storm condition here in New York. Pent-up demand is not recent. Pent-up demand is not just after COVID. Pent-up demand started in 18 and 19 when nobody was really buying. We have short memories maybe, but back then the market was just going down. Absorption was low, demand was low, pricing was tough to get, price per square foot was going down, new developments and resales. When we hit the first quarter of 2020, right before COVID, the first quarter, the first couple of months started to peak up again. And things started to move up in terms of absorption, in terms of demand. We saw more activity across the board. But then COVID hit, and everything went kaput, right? Until the last quarter of 2020, when things started to change again. Now, the last 6 to 7 months were simply unbelievable to us. Incredible. Things have changed 180 degrees. That pent-up demand became real. All these people that didn't want to buy, that were afraid to buy, and because of COVID went out to the Hamptons and Jersey and Connecticut because New York was going down the drain, because this was urban living no more, escape from New York, all the horrible stories that we heard because of the riots, because of COVID. Everybody was starting to come back. Not everybody. Some people went out to Florida because of taxes and because of financial benefits, but people came back because they wanted to be in the city. They had cash, they made a fortune. The top percentage of affluent people in this, it's just unbelievable how much money was made in the past 12 months. What do you do with all this money? Where do you invest it? Especially when there's the thought of maybe the market going down at some point. You diversify. Where do you put it? You put it in real estate. When? When you want to come back into the city. When your kids want to go back to school here. When you've had enough of those swimming pools and 2 available restaurants out in the suburbs. You want to be in the city. So they kept coming in. Now, those people that went into market and started to purchase the first 3 to 4 months of 2021 did extremely well because the discounts were crazy. In our buildings, I remember we went between 5 and 25% off. So if you had cash and you were willing to commit, you got a great deal. Gradually, that's been changing because we've seen the absorption. Yes. Now, money is cheap. You can find a loan, and I'm sure Scott can tell you, money is cheap. It's like they're giving you money. Just take it, right? If you're financially qualified, it's crazy not to take a loan today. First-time buyers, if they're financially qualified, people with money, just take money and purchase. So that's available, right? Inventory is there for the taking because it's been piling up, and there's a lot to choose from. Rich people, really wealthy people have made very deep commitments to buy very expensive apartments. When was the last time you saw all these transactions on Park Avenue, on all these penthouses that have been selling at crazy numbers? So there's a lot that's been leading to where we are today. In my opinion, based on my experience in the marketplace, indication right now in terms of geopolitical conditions in the world, again, this is all local buyers. We're not experiencing foreign buyers as of yet. What happens when they jump in? And that's coming. As of November, flights are going to start hitting New York, and that's going to be completely different in terms of foreign demand. What is that going to do to the market? In my opinion, this momentum is going to last in the foreseeable future, unless it's an unpredictable, unforeseeable type of an event. Whether it's, I don't know what it could be. COVID hit us, right? Who saw that coming, right? But unless something crazy like that happens, in New York specifically, because people want to be in New York, I think this momentum is going to carry us into, again, what I describe as possibly the perfect storm. And then we'll see. Absorption is going to be taking place with all available inventory. We're seeing it across the board. We're seeing it in Brooklyn. We're seeing it in Queens. We're seeing it in Long Island City, in the city itself. Some pockets are not doing well. Some pockets are not doing as well. Absorption is a little lower. Demand is a little lower. price and price per square foot. But overall, across the board, below $3 million, between 3 and 7, and then 7 to 30, 40, $50 million, we're going to rock and roll here.
Absolutely, from your mouth to God's ears. I think, who stayed here in New York? I mean, I went out for a couple months here and there because my two boys were on Zoom, my wife is on Zoom, I'm on Zoom. So we're like a Zoomer family, but it was the four of us 24/7. But who stayed here in New York, right? I did too. I did too. And because I did, right, we do a stint of a month in the Hamptons, and then when my property is not rented, I would go to Hudson Valley and rent a property there, or Connecticut. And then when we're back in the city for that month, I would see people with masks on outside. And my team became #1 in my office last year. I was like,
Without a tie.
without a tie, exactly, with my jogging pants on while I'm Zooming. But now, with all of the contracts signed, it's really, because you were talking about closings, in the past week, it's also been contract signed at the highest volume in the new development, in the luxury Ocean Report I just read, and in everything that's under 2 million. So we're still seeing this momentum. We're still seeing this absorption. And now, I don't think I can be #1 in my office anymore. Everyone's doing 5 million, 10 million. I just saw somebody do a $30 million deal in my office. So I said to him, lunch is on him. I want to switch to commercial real estate. I know we are residential, and you're NYRS, and we're at a higher level of education at Reuveni. I want to touch base with our commercial friends because it's been suffering. In the same articles, there's been a lot of shuttered stores. The business districts has been very sleepy, and there's gun violence, right? Manhattan feels very different than before. The boroughs feel very different than before. The amenities of the neighborhood have shuttered. They're disappearing. What can we do in terms of legislation, right? What can we do to boost commercial local businesses in New York City neighborhoods? I mean, in my neighborhood, we were having cocktails outside, right? We didn't have ice, so it would just freeze. I'm talking about in the middle of January, right? You saw that. It was incredible. But besides patronizing our restaurants and our bars, what else can we do? Is this going to turn around in terms of commercial businesses, commercial real estate?
I think it will, but I think what you're going to see first is quality is where it's going to turn around. Any commercial building for certain, I think quality, that's what people are going towards. There's good deals to be done. People are coming back to the office.
Yes.
I know at my office, my staff's working 5 days a week. We don't have any more remote work. My husband's in the investment banking world. They're struggling a little, 3 days back. I need my Mondays and Fridays, or maybe I get to pick the days. So I think a lot of the industries are challenged, but they're coming back. So,
Yes.
and it has to come back. Zoom is wonderful, and it's here to stay. And a lot of the remote things and the technological things that we learned in the last 2 years are extremely efficient. But what isn't efficient is what we're doing today. Seeing people live, collaborating, talking, having the chance to chat with some of you out here. It's just so stimulating. So commercial, you need people back. We said they're coming back to the residential, the commercial will follow. I think retail is probably going to be the last one to pick up, but it will, and the holidays are coming. Even, I know a lot of the landlords are doing the pop-up stores and allowing that, and as long as we have energy in the city, the stores will come back. So, and you mentioned, the crime, and certainly, I mean, I've been in the city my whole life, so I know the 80s, and the 80s were tough, but we're not in the 80s. I was coming down here, I'm a subway rider. I like efficiency. You know, someone said, oh, get a car, do the Uber, take a taxi. I said, I don't have the time to sit in a taxi to come down here. I get on the 4 and I'm here in 20 minutes. But I'm about to leave and someone said, I'm going downtown, and I said, I'm getting in the subway. They said, you can't get in the subway, someone's gonna push you on the tracks. It's like, it's not everyone that steps in the subway gets pushed in the tracks.
Right.
Not, I eat dinner at Philippe, where they had that incident with the robbery. It's not happening every time. The media, to some degree, it is news. It's tintillating, so we all want to hear. But the city does have some issues. I think we talked politically, I think, thank goodness we have a change in a political arena.
Yes.
I hope Eric can do what he says he's going to do. His background certainly indicates that he should be a great leader. We have a change at the top. I think, just don't ever tell New York that New York's not going to make it, because we are true grit. And look at how we have turned New York around residentially. When we were dead, everyone was gone. And it's not true. New York is here to stay. We are the capital of the world, and we'll go through some tough times, but we will survive.
Yeah, we are.
Be a winner.
We are tough. I mean,
Yeah.
9/11 happened, and of course the pandemic, Cuomo happened. We get through all of it, and we're still staying around because I like walking down my block. I have friends. I sold their property. They bought in Palm Beach. They went to the Dalton-like schools, and then they went to the restaurant. They said, they didn't like the restaurants, they didn't like the schools, they didn't like the people, and they came back a month ago and they went into a contract, right? You just cannot ever bet against New York because you will lose. It is one of those things that people are back in the offices, my kids are back in their schools, and they're playing sports, right? I didn't realize how important sports is, because I said to them, go outside and play. The streets are empty, or when we're out in the Hamptons, you go to the beach. But to have that socialization, right, with their peers, and you have what now? 5? You have 3.
You're not following my Instagram?
I do. I was kidding. No, I know your kids. They're adorable. He has 2 little ones, and he has one that's graduated. So in terms of crime and new development, and I know there are new developments that is in a not so great of a neighborhood, right, that you've handled. How do you sell that property? How do we help our brokers in a neighborhood that is not as that is emerging? An emerging neighborhood.
Cool. I don't know what neighborhood is emerging at this point in Manhattan, but,
Right.
but let me just take it from the top.
True.
So there's definitely a change of administration coming in, and I think that's going to make a world of a difference. I think he's going to do great. I think he's going to change things in the city. I think he's going to improve conditions in the city and lifestyle, and you're going to see it on the street as well. He's got the backing and the support of the real estate industry. He's got a lot of money behind him, and I think that the objective, the direction is really good. So I think that's definitely going to make a difference. And it's about time that we change administrations at this point.
Yes.
Now, COVID has a lot to do with what's going on with the commercial world, because until people are vaccinated, until people feel comfortable coming back to offices, we're not going to get those people back in offices. And yes, COVID made a difference in terms of work and work from home and from office structure, and that's going to take hold for a lot of companies, and we'll see what that looks like. But people need to come back to offices, and they will. Right now, it's about 50%, I think. The office force in the city is about 50%. It needs to get to a higher level. And once you see that, once that happens,
right.
You will see more restaurants, more bars, more cafes opening up. Those people go to offices, they go to lunch, they take the subway, they take cabs, they buy something for their wives and husbands on their way back home, right? And that stimulates life on the street. Now, as far as the commercial world is concerned, that's a big word. Right? There's hotels, that's the hospitality. A lot of them got hit badly because of COVID, and some of them now are on the street for sale to be repurposed as residential. I'm working on one that's a very, very large hotel that's no longer operating as a hotel because it can't. Somebody bought it, and we're going to make it into a residential project. You're going to see a lot of that happening. You're also going to see that with office buildings. Most of these office buildings probably cannot survive. I mean, you know, people will come back, but things are going to be more efficient in terms of offices as well. People are now looking into repurposing those office buildings. It's not easy because the way they're built, they're very deep. There's no windows on the inside, but a solution will be found. I have absolutely no doubt. I do agree with Diane that the last item that needs to be addressed and somehow worked out is retail. I don't know what the answer is for retail. I really don't. And I don't think that retail is coming back the way it was. I just don't. So something is going to have to be done with those retail spaces, but I'm not smart enough to know. Someone is out there that's going to come up with a great idea that's going to completely change the concept of retail. I'm sure of that. As far as new development selling in certain neighborhoods, I'll give you an example. I'm doing a project right now on the Upper West Side in a submarket that didn't exist as a submarket, 86 to 96th Street on Broadway. That was a sleepy area, and for the past 25 years, there wasn't one new ground-up new development project. 25 years. Why? Who wanted to live above 86th Street on the Upper West Side? I want to be near Lincoln Center. I want to be in the 70s. I want to be near Columbus Avenue, right? Who wants to go above 86th Street? Now they do, because if you buy something that's new in a ground-up construction or conversion below 86th Street on the Upper West Side, you're expected to pay $3,000 a foot. What if you want to stay on the Upper West Side, you want to send your kids to the same schools, you want to enjoy the neighborhood, but you don't want to pay $3,000 a foot. You don't have it. For a 2,000 square foot apartment, you want to pay $2,000 a foot or $25 a foot, right? 4 to 5 million instead of 6 to 7 million, you go north. So I'll give you an example. I have a great project on 91st and Broadway, and a buyer came to me negotiating. We're negotiating on a deal, a $6 million apartment, and they said, you know, my kids go to school 3 blocks away from the building, and they live in the 70s. They live in the 70s on the Upper West Side. They go to school a few blocks away, and there was an occurrence, and one of the parents got attacked on the street. And 3 days before that, there was a murder on 92nd and Amsterdam Avenue. And before that, there was a holdup in one of the stores on Broadway. Area is dangerous. We're not going up there. Now, you know, I've been living in the city for a very long time. I'm raising 3 girls, not 6, 3 girls. I'm not that busy. There is my wife. So I'm conscious, and I'm very concerned about safety and about the streets and where my girls live. And I live off Central Park West on 106th Street. So I'm a little further uptown as well, right? And I say to myself, things happen anywhere. They can happen anywhere,
right.
just because it happened. So the following day, they didn't buy the apartment. The following day, I sold the penthouse for $3,800 a foot in my building, right? And there's an agent in this room right now that sold it, and if that agent wants to identify himself or herself, Shirley, thank you so much.
Congrats, Shirley.
So,
Drinks on you.
So here you go about a neighborhood that some people think of it a certain way and some people don't. I don't think there's an emerging neighborhood left in Manhattan. Do you remember Alphabet City?
Yes.
Who calls it Alphabet City today, right? No one. It's East Village, and things are selling for crazy numbers, right? I call it Alphabet City because I remember I used to party there at 4 o'clock in the morning, you know, and I love the neighborhood for what it used to be. Or Hell's Kitchen, right? Who would have thought of living in Hell's Kitchen? And look at the transactions that are taking place in the mid. What neighborhood is? Chelsea. Chelsea. I mean, look at you know,
right.
the Highline area. I mean, just a few years ago, who would have thought? Is there such an area in the city today that's called an emerging market? You know, prices are different in different neighborhoods, right? But I think the momentum that we have now and the recognition of New York City truly is the crossroads of the world, capital of the world, especially after COVID. We've been through COVID, we've been through riots, all of that, and we are where we are today. That momentum is going to carry throughout, and especially now with Hudson Yards, and especially with Google buying the $2.1 billion building in the West Village. I mean, that's just nuts. with all these people
Yes.
coming in. And that's going to change the landscape, which will in turn change the commercial aspects as well.
Well, listening to that makes me want to just make calls right now and you know, sell in any neighborhood in the city. I just, it's very motivational and rooted in facts, not fake news. I want to switch to Diane with, now, what we've noticed in terms of facts and stats, buyers over the last few months gravitated towards co-ops. It's a trend we've never seen. It lost favor in the recent years. Co-ops, here's the statistics, accounted for 49% of all deals versus 37% of existing condos. What's happening here, Diane? How come co-ops are now, I have my own reasons, but I want to hear yours.
Right, well, it's that word again, value. Look at the differential between a condo now and a co-op. The value is amazing.
Yeah.
And, you know, everyone says, but the board process, and, you know, even a condo has a process. And you're talking in, you know, what the exact percentage of, there's still, I think, probably about 50-50 co-ops and condos, but you would all know better than I maybe. So there are plenty of them. They're beautiful, beautiful buildings, or even your post-wars have incredible floor plates. Again, when you compare it to square footage on a condo, the maintenance numbers are usually attractive. And then when you see the condos, a lot of them are coming off the tax abatement, so you're not going to have a monthly differential anymore, and in fact, condos could become more expensive. So then you look at the price of a condo and a co-op, and it's almost half price. And it's beautiful living, great neighborhoods. You know, why they went out of favor is just because we were building all these fabulous new buildings. Tax abatement made it extremely attractive. The price per square foot was not what it is today. And over the years, the differential just got greater and greater, and now co-op it's the way to go if you're looking for value and you're looking to live here and you're not going to rent it out. I mean, and, you know, that's part of the reason you wanted the flexibility of a condo. I can rent it if I want, you know, I could, you know, I don't have to go through the board process. The board process isn't so daunting anymore. So they're a great product, and they're here to stay, and I'm delighted they're coming alive. It's a great product.
Me too. You hit the nail on the head. We have a buyer coming from Washington, D.C., a property that is really special, 136 Waverly. We're on the seller side, and the broker on the other side, she and I were talking. They were looking for condos, and they're about to sign the contract. And one of the things that he's from a very famous family. I said to him, they deserve to be in a co-op, in an exclusive country club, right? And it's true, because the big thing that attracted this kid, 28 years old, trust is paying for it, of course. It's because of the value. If he wanted the same exact thing in the West Village, it would cost him twice as much, if not more. Right. So it was, and his dad liked the price as well. So I think also co-ops are safer because you are putting 20, and this building is 30% down. Instead of, you know, of course, we wanted to sign the contract, so we were talking about the advantages of co-ops. What we have seen, though, Shlomi, in incredible deals in the past, during the pandemic, in the past 6 months especially, with new developments, with condos, especially in the luxury department. I want you to talk about 90 Morton. You did miracles there. You sold for such a high price per square foot. I'll stop talking and have you talk to us. How did you get it done? Did you change anything in your marketing? I know it's the location, I know it's the quality of the development, but I think it's more than that. How come new development, and Olshan talked about 601 Washington, We keep seeing $30, $32, $35 million every week, breaking records, not just in the highest contracts, but in the volume. So that's also rising.
I got lucky. Listen, we can be, luck, you know what, luck is part of it, for sure. And sometimes you need it, and sometimes you really, really deserve it, right? But we're not smarter than the market. I don't care how much data you do, how much research, how long you've been in a business, how much you think of yourself. We're not smarter than the market. We are all dependent on the market. When the market is good, you'll do well, or you'll do better. When the market is not, then you're going to struggle like everybody else. If people are not purchasing, not buying, the mood is not there, the momentum is not there, you're going to be struggling, and maybe you'll do better than others. And I believe that the exceptionally good will do better, and some will do very well. But at the end of the day, it's all up to the market. So the market was shit for a very long time. It was just like that. And I had a product in the West Village in a great location, great product, but the kind of product that just was not selling at the time. People were not spending an average of $10 million an apartment, $3,000 a foot. That's not there. Remember how we started the conversation in 2018 and 19? The mood was not to buy, right? I had to go out of my way to offer crazy incentives and discounts, and still they didn't buy. And I had the best product in the marketplace. What changed was the market. After COVID, people did come back to the city looking for people with money, looking for great locations and very unique product. And I happened to have 90 Morton. Now, did I work hard? Yes. Did I kill myself day and night to be there for every single appointment, to negotiate every deal, to represent the best way possible? Yes. I'm not, no man is an island, right? Is that the saying? No man is an island?
That's right.
I have a great team behind me. Great team that supports me with marketing and with sales and with, with everything I do in terms of strategy and every piece of information that I need in order to sell. But I'll tell you what I did that maybe was a little different, because I have an advantage of years, under my belt, right? I've been in business since 1986. I go back to old school way of doing business. I started when there was no internet, there was no listings in your computer, there was no computer. I had a beeper. Remember beepers? Yes. Right, and a roll of quarters in my pocket, because when you got beeped, you had to go to a payphone. How many of you have been in a business for like 20 years or more than that? Anybody 30 years and more? Wow. Okay. So think back 1986, right? 1980s, early 1990s. The way I used to do business is, I come from nothing, very humble backgrounds, right? I mean, there was a time that I left home when I was 17 years old, after being in this country, at the age of 15 we came here. At 17 I left home, got my own apartment. I went to college for 2 semesters, and there was a time that I had no money in my pocket to pay for a token, right, to get into the subway. So I know what having nothing is. And I promised myself that I'll never have nothing again if I can help it. So every client, every lead, every phone call, every inquiry, I scrutinized to death. To death, until I got something out of them, until I got a showing. And after every showing, I followed up until the person just wanted to hang up on me and tell me, Shlomi, don't fucking call me again. I don't want to hear from you, right? But I called them again, and I brought them back into the building. And I sat down with the buyers myself, and I scrutinized the buyer. And if they happened to rent in Jersey, I wanted to know how much they paid the rent. That's what I did every single day until I sold everything out. So if there's a secret sauce, it's just hard work and commitment. That's all it is.
Amen.
Everything else comes with. You just got to be diligent. Those people that make a lot of money, right, in very good markets are not necessarily smart. Because in very good markets, to make money, what do you have to do? Show up. That's it. And deals just fall into your lap, right? It's those people that know how to make money in times that are not good, where the market is going down, when nobody wants to purchase, and you really have to convince them that the best thing that they can be doing right now is purchase, is buy. Those people are going to be making money in shitty markets. And in good markets, they're going to excel. So I did nothing. Other than learning from my mistakes, getting up every morning, getting into work, not giving up, and try to make a living.
It makes me verklempt, in terms of, that's the best American dream story I've heard in the past couple of months. I'm also very active in the diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging space. I'm a consultant for for many financial firms where I came from 30 years ago. But hearing that story, it just makes me go, you know, I love this industry because, you know, I'm Filipino, my wife is Italian, and we have kids who are growing up seeing incredible people like you. Most of you have met my kids, and they're seeing the American dream blossom in front of them time and time again. And before I forget and go to Diane, he mentioned this team, MD and Tom and the rest of Shlomi. Can you raise your hand? This is Shlomi's team. This chair just doesn't appear, all of this food, all this organization, this doesn't appear out of nothing. It just doesn't apparate, but you guys are miracle workers. Thank you so much. We are here in the financial, we talked about the village, we're here in the financial district. One of the things that happened over during COVID, right? Before COVID, it's always been a hard, I always say, I've been in the business 20 years. When I started, I was hired as a sales director for City Habitats, if you guys remember what that brand is. I was just doing sales, and then we were asked, like, who would like to head the financial district office? Not me. And no one was, you know, it was so hard. It's like the little engine that could, but, you know, go up the mountain and it just slide back down, right? So it was always been tough. But this past couple of months, this past 6 months, it has seen, it has soared 33% in 1 year, the largest increase of any neighborhood. Do you think this penthouse is going to be sold? Are we seeing financial district FIDI finally come together? I know we had, we were talking about the village and how it's breaking records, right? What do you think, Diane? What do you think, Shlomi? Is FIDI finally coming to join the party?
I think it's at the party, but you need great products. So, I mean, this is great product, and the outdoor space is to die for. A great building. And again, remember, we are in a different situation. People want to live close to where they work. So I think we want the circle of our life to be not having to go uptown and downtown. And I do believe everyone that went out of the city, didn't stay in the city as I chose to do, and went to Hudson Valley or the Hamptons or Connecticut or wherever they are. I think those people are basically going to either keep those homes or have the homes, whether it's in Florida or whatever. I think they want both. They'll get the break and go to Florida or Hudson Valley or Connecticut or wherever. But when they're in the city, I believe they want to be near work. They want to be able to walk, have good restaurants to go to, put their children in schools that are in the vicinity, and that's what downtown to me is. It's here. It's been here, but we now have the product and people wanting more and more to live close to where they work.
Do you concur, Shlomi?
I do, and I mean, a living example of that is Michelle. Is Michelle here? Michelle is right there. Michelle just sold this penthouse.
Oh, come on.
This
yes. Mazel tov. Felicidades.
This penthouse was on the market for a while with no takers at all, and we aggressively marketed it. I gotta thank the brokerage community for it, because we do a very strong outreach to the brokerage community, and the response has been great. We had increased showings, we had increasing inquiries, and we finally did a deal here after a very long time when this was on the market. I think unique product will always sell. I think if you have unique features like high ceilings and outdoor spaces and great exposures and light, I think if you don't have to do much in terms of renovation, you'll get a buyer. At the end of the day, it's just going to be about pricing, and then you just got to see what the market is. But if your marketing is good, if your social media is good, and if you're not doing social media, get on your phone right now and establish an account and do social media, and be smart about doing it as well, because you can get otherwise swallowed up by everybody's doing social media, so you got to stand out. But your social media, your marketing campaign, your advertising campaign, your SEOs, your Google, type of online advertising, your inquiries, your showings, your presentations, all have to be perfect. perfect if you want to stand out, and especially in a neighborhood that's been compromised, right, because of COVID. I mean, we're in Wall Street. This is all offices here, and everybody just went to the country. So who's to buy here and why when there's no life on the street, when the restaurants are closed, right? But things are definitely coming back now. And if this is an indication of renewed interest in the neighborhood, and mind you, this wasn't $1 million apartment, right? This was listed at 5.3. Michelle? Michelle is taking a picture. She's posing now.
Sorry,
You look great. I think it was $5.3 million for this apartment, right? So that's a big price ticket for downtown FIDI, right? Now the building offers amazing inventory in terms of studios and 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms. It's in a great location. It's got great amenities. It's got great bones about it. And at the end of the day, when you compare the price per square foot here versus anywhere else in the city, it's a huge value proposition. So just like co-op's a great value, which I completely agree, against condos, condos here are great value against condos anywhere else. And anybody who's looking for more space for less, this type of a neighborhood is just a great opportunity.
Yeah, and one of the things that is fascinating, when I came to a party here, how long was that?
You don't remember because it was a wild party.
Yeah, it was the roaring 20s, the dancers, oh goodness gracious. But to sell this property from that time until now, he said, I got lucky, right? And then Diane was whispering to me, and this is what I always tell my team, my children, everyone I meet. Luck is labor under correct knowledge, L-U-C-K, labor under correct knowledge, or when preparation meets hard work. That to me is luck. I don't believe in luck, but I do believe in hard work. You create your luck. So, and nobody's harder working. I mean, isn't this like listening to Diane and Shlomi's, it's a master class that you're all in right now. So thank you for that. The big thing that's happening in the next November 2, it's an election. Don't forget to vote. That is the general election. We all kind of said, oh, the primary was really the election because Eric Adams is already. No, that's not true. And the same thing with the city council. It's 70%. The landscape of city council is going to change. So go vote. I'm not going to endorse anybody right now. Just talk to me afterwards because I don't want to go into politics. Now, I want to talk about the elephant in the room. Diane moved to Berkshire. And I called her immediately, congratulations and all that. Now, I know that Richard Grossman also went to Avenues 8. I also know that Fred Peters sold Warburg, right, just this past week to Coldwell. He said that he would never, ever sell. Is this a pattern, Diane? Why did you move? Why start a whole new chapter? Isn't it time to just relax and go shopping and go on the beach? Is there a pattern that Adam Modlin and Warburg are now going to disappear? It's going to be the global luxury firms that are going to take over.
I don't think it's ever going to be the global luxury firms. I think there's always a place for all size firms, and the boutique firms have their niche market, and it's perfect for them. I do think the last 18 months has given every one of us a chance to sit and think about what do we want to do. I spent a lot of months, just like all of you, the second I could go to the office and legally we could go, I was there. In fact, I was telling someone that I was there and I was dressed and I walked to work, and I had so many people say, oh my God, it's so great to see someone dressed. And it was just in normal go-to-work clothes, but nobody was in them. They were still in their pajamas, walking around the street. They still, some of them are. But you had a chance to really evaluate. You were in the house a lot. You were working hard. Sometimes we worked harder in those days, but the collaboration wasn't there. And I think a lot of people had a chance to say, am I where I want to be? Am I happy? There was a lot of reflection time. And for me, to kind of put it in a nutshell, we decided to merge Halsted and Brown Harris during the pandemic. I birthed that baby, and it was a beautiful baby to birth. I grew it from, 200 agents to being 1,500 in 3 states and 3 dozen offices, and I loved doing that. And then I married it off to Brown Harris Stevens, and I was the girl. I gave up my name. So even though some would say the lady shouldn't give up their name, but it was the right thing. And then I sat back. I spent the year integrating it because I had to be certain my people were really taken care of, and they were. And I realized I'm still passionate about this business. I love it. So, I will give the whole story of reaching out and why I reached out, but I realized what I'm passionate about is growing and creativity and forward thinking and being innovative, and when you marry off and you're not the one that's kind of leading, and trust me, I did not want the CEO role at the merger, and I didn't want the CEO role at Berkshire Hathaway. I wanted the creative role. I wanted to be able to turn this Berkshire Hathaway brand that is truly, you cannot get a better brand, but it's such a sleepy little startup in New York. So I just said, I have another challenge, I have another mountain to climb, and God willing, I hope I climb it and hit the top, but I'm so exhilarated. The organization from the top down is amazing. They're all in. They were sleepy for a year. They needed good leadership. With Steve and Brad and myself, who are the leaders on board at this time. Of course, I'm the only one working. We won't get into those details because they're on non-competes now. But they're there behind me in the thought process, and I'm so excited. It's like a rebirth. And that's what I learned during COVID, is I love what I do, and I don't want to stop doing it.
They're lucky to have you, really. And we are lucky to have you. I mean, people are saying, COVID created marriages, created babies, puppies, created divorces. My wife and I bought a car. I never thought I would. I Uber everywhere, right?
I hope it's electric.
Yeah, I gotta say, changes happen. It really makes us real. It made us think, it made us see that the essential workers, the nurses, the grocery workers, are the real people that we need, not the celebrities, not the influencers on Instagram and social network. Did you do any changes in your staff over COVID? Did you do reflection? What are some of the changes that you did in your firm as due to COVID?
A lot. I had 19 employees March of 2020. May of 2020, I had 4. I mean, for me, it was, and just, I'm sure you mentioned the sort of evolution and the reflection. I went through a lot. I went through a big cycle of having a huge portfolio of projects, being like at the pinnacle of everything, about to burst into an unbelievable momentum with projects, and then COVID hit, and everything stopped. And then it got so bad for me personally, like July and August of last year, I didn't think I was going to last. Because there was no, it was like facing the abyss in a way. Back then, if you remember, after the unrest in the city, and nobody knew what was coming back in August, September, I didn't think the business can last. And it wasn't just me, it was the industry. Large companies and small companies were hurting to a point where it just wasn't worth keeping offices or keeping employees. And if this had lasted another 6 months, we would have been in a completely different reality here in the city in terms of who actually was left standing. But things changed. September of last year, all of a sudden, things started to look a little better. We started to close some deals, there was more momentum, there was more demand, and then at the beginning of this year, things completely changed. Now, I definitely know today, having gone through last year, personally and professionally, who I am in a much better way and what I'm able to do and what I can't do. I understand my limitations at this point, and I know what's good for me. One of the things that I decided is I don't need to compete with Brown Harris Stevens or Corcoran or Sunshine or Douglas Elliman. I'm good being lean and focused and working a few projects than try to build an empire. That ego aspect of the business, when you're a business owner, not just a business owner, because there's a lot of teams out there working within large companies that are really like small companies, right? They may not be business owners with their name on a door, but they're running an operation. But that ego aspect, that greed in a way, for me anyway, of trying to get more, trying to get further, right? Which is, again, where I come from. Naturally, this is what I need to do every morning when I wake up, right? That I don't have anymore. I have the passion and I have the commitment, but I know what I'm capable of doing. And it's much clearer for me now. Anything can happen. We can be in a great market today. It can change next month. What's the biggest joke of all? How do you make God laugh? Make a plan, right? We made plans back in March of 2020. At least I did. Nothing materialized, right? Nothing is up to us, right? So I've learned my lessons in terms of going forward. I don't know where the market is going to be. I don't know where the industry is going to be. But I know what I need to do and what is enough for me in life in terms of business and in terms of my ability. So if COVID did anything to me, life got much clearer for me.
That's beautiful. All right. I had a couple more questions with RLS and CitySnap, but I saw a couple of hands go up already, and you guys can read the Real Deal article about that and where RLS is going. We're going to destroy StreetEasy and Zillow. But I want to open it up. I'm sure you have, because Diane has to leave, I have to leave. I'm sure you have questions for them.
I can stay for another couple hours. Anybody wants to have drinks and shoot the breeze?
Jennifer, go ahead. Jenny.
So you meant, I wanted to touch upon the inventory. So as I understand, there's about 5,000 units that are still unsold in new developments. And Shlomi, you mentioned that you're doing a big project, and because there's a lesser revenue for commercial buildings, that has been happening around this area actually for 15 years. So how is the inventory rate going to affect the future near coming New York City market for all these new developments coming?
So I've seen, I don't know what the actual number
Good question.
is. Thanks for your question. I don't know what the actual number is. And when we say 5,000, I'm not sure if you're talking about Manhattan.
5,000 that is not on the market.
The shadow inventory, right?
Is that Manhattan, or is that Long Island City and Brooklyn? Or does that include Queens as well? So that's where, because I've never seen an actual proven number for shadow inventory. And I'm in a business, I live this every day. I can tell you that there's definitely more inventory coming in Manhattan. Let's just focus on the city, right? But it also depends on where you are in a city and what the sub-market is. So my sub-market right now that I'm focusing on, because I see it as the greatest potential for growth and for upside and value in terms of real estate for the next 10 years, is Upper West Side, north of 86th Street. I see that as the future in terms of upside. Why? Because it's a straight line down to Hudson Yards and to Google, and to Disney's now also opening up their headquarters on Varick, right? Huge influx of employees are going to come into that area. And where they're going to end up? Now it depends on who they are. If they're single, if they're couples, or if they're families, right? So let's assume they're families with kids. Where do they end up, right? So this is the kind of data that we go through on a regular basis in terms of trying to predict the future, right? Make a plan, right? But not making a plan, but sort of understand the projections. Where are they going to end up? They may end up in West Chelsea, Tribeca, West Village, Midtown West, or Upper West Side. Now, once you start narrowing down, let's talk about prices, price per square foot, absorption, and demand. West Village is very, very expensive for most people, probably not ending up there. Tribeca will definitely assume some of these buyers. West 50s, not very much for families. Yes, in some areas. Most likely it's going to be the Upper West Side. Okay, if that's true, now let's narrow down on the Upper West Side. What's the price point on the Upper West Side? What's the inventory like? What's the pipeline like? And what's the expectation for absorption based on demand? If you're able to spend $6 to $8 million on the Upper West Side, good for you. You probably end up someplace between the 60s and the 70s. And product is extremely limited. You cannot find a lot of new projects coming up. There are two on the market now. Gary Barnett is doing a mega project on 65th Street, 66th Street. Not a lot more. How many units is that? 100? 150? Now, what if you don't want to spend that kind of money? What if you're in the 3 to 4 or $3 to $5 million price range? There's nothing. How crazy is that? There's nothing. If you're looking for 2,000 square feet or 2,500 square feet at that price point, you will not find anything. You can go to a co-op, for sure, but if you don't want to live in a co-op, if you don't want to do renovations, if you want something a little more modern, okay, so you can pick up maybe a new development from 10, 15 years ago, which you could get, right, at about $2,400 to $2,600 a foot. Think the Laureate on 76 and Broadway.
Yes.
Think the Apthorpe, for example, right? Like conversions and ground up. But if you want more, if you want modern, and you can only afford a certain amount, the only place to go is north. That's it. Now, we're expecting tens of thousands of new employees in that area. So that's how I look at it, right? Now, if you look at downtown, if you look at east side and west side, you can do different data analysis and different projections in terms of different submarkets, right? But I don't think that New York, I think, again, in my opinion, I'm not just here, you know, as lip service to anyone. I don't work for any big company. I don't need to project agendas or political direction in terms of what I say. I just say what I think and what I see, right? Because it hurts my pocket if I don't. And I believe right now that the momentum is going to create a situation in Manhattan specifically, and yes, in Brooklyn, like I said it, but New York City that's going to be unprecedented in the future. So that absorption aspect, to me, is not an issue. I don't see that as a problem. What I'm more concerned about is the product that I can create that would be better mousetrap than the next guy over. The projects that I represent are better image and better mechanicals and better structural and better architecture and better product, because if I do, they will come.
It's one of the best answers I've ever heard. It just got into the weeds. It's crystallized. Diane, want to add to that?
No, it's so true. And I mean, forever we've been hearing about shadow inventory. You know, the demand for a home ownership in New York is huge. As you said, just how many people are coming in.
Yeah.
So if the right product comes in, I really think the whole shadow inventory, it's real, but they're all numbers. And I think what you're saying is so true.
Certain submarkets might be saturated based on absorption and based on what we've seen in the past few years and projections for how many people can really buy in any given location. But if that happens, the market is going to correct itself. I believe in that. I believe that if you're overpriced and a certain neighborhood is overpriced because of certain projects, people will simply not buy. If you don't offer value, they're not going to purchase. Nobody's stupid. Everybody knows everything about everything today.
Yeah.
Trust me, they don't need you as a broker. And I'll touch on this. I'll play devil's advocate in a second. But they don't need you because everything is on Street Easy. They don't need you because everything is online. They can find out about pipeline. They can go to DOB. They can go to the AG. They can go to offering plans before you have them, right? No one is stupid. Everybody knows about value. Nobody's going to overpay. So you can build anything you want and ask for anything you want in terms of price. If it's not market, you ain't selling, right? And at some point, it's going to correct itself, and prices are going to come down, right? And people will purchase. That's what's going to happen to inventory that is saturated, inventory that's not moving. At some point, it will sell. And the developer may be out. Now, I'll just touch on, I don't know how much time we have, but they do need you. Because if you're smart, they want to work with you. If you know the market better than your next, the person sitting next to you, they'll want to work with you. If you have insight into value and price per square foot, and if you can create an Excel format that shows them how and why, they'll want to work with you. You can't get that online. This whole thing of technology is going to sell us out, and us as brokers, we're irrelevant. That's BS. I've been doing this for 30-something years. The way to sell is exactly what I'm doing now. I'm sitting here and I'm selling you. That's the way to sell. And if you're smart, if you got the data in place, if you understand the market really well, and you're personable, it's irreplaceable, not AE or anything else. So they do need you, but you got to be all that, right? You can't just assume that you can walk into the office and sell apartments. It doesn't work like that.
And Zillow announced, it was just in the Real Deal, that iBuyer is now gone. And Diane was saying, go ahead, Diane, what you said we had a prep call this morning.
Right, they're blaming it on the supply chain. But, you know, I mean, I've been in this business a long time. I've seen a lot of companies lose their shirt on buying iBuyer concept. And so
Yeah, you could do that with-
You've got to get out of things gracefully. But they are so far the only ones getting out of it. So we'll see what.
Yeah, I think they will, because, you know, you can do that with the airline tickets. You could do that with cars. But there's someone who was referred to me as a buyer, and he said, you know, he's been working on his own as a broker. I mean, as his own broker, as going direct to the listing brokers for the past 6 months. And just working with him for 3 weeks, he said, I can't believe I didn't. He has a $2 million budget. He said, I can't believe I didn't get a broker before. But your value add is exactly what they're talking about in terms of hard work, data, and also your relationship. Because they're busy with something else. We're busy brokering, right? We do this 10 hours a day. And it is fulfilling work when I do help somebody. That's how I think of it. Anyone else? Questions? Brian, you've been very patient. Thank you, sir.
Hey, mine's Phillips on the Selman. Hi, Diane and Shlomi. Great event, by the way, Antonio. Thanks for putting this together. Great coup for NYRS.
Thank you.
My question stems from the commercial question, which I think is a great question. And based on your answers, I know you may not know the answer, but what retail would you like to see the city come back with?
What type of retail to come back?
Yeah. That's different from the past.
I like bookstores.
Yes.
I like small neighborhood community bookstores.
Yes.
Remember Shakespeare
Yes.
on 81st on Broadway? Man, I used to live there.
Yeah.
Barnes & Noble, I love Barnes & Noble. I take my kids there, they love the Saturday night storytelling thing. But it's like Disney World now. You go in there with all the toys, and I just like a good bookstore, you know, where you can spend like 2 hours and not even feel it, just looking at books.
And maybe we have a shot at having that happen, where you have owners of retail. I think they're going to hold on to their price points, and there are some of the owners of retail that literally their stores are empty for 20, 30 years. It's insanity. But you're seeing retail in co-op buildings where that retail helps defer the maintenance in the buildings. I think that's where we're going to see the possibility of them saying, I'd rather have someone in there, and maybe it's the bookstore, that will pay the rent, and I get some rent, then hold to the rent number and have it empty for years. So I think with all of the
Great
retail
solution.
that's empty and co-op buildings who are seeing maintenance increases because they lost all that retail space, maybe being the ones that turn the tide on some of the empty stores. But I also think retail is going to evolve. I think, look at it, the medical field going into retail now. So I think you're not going to go back to the mom pops. Most people can't afford retail, and quite honestly, you know, now you can get your groceries in 15 minutes, and that's actually a retail store. So maybe a lot of the retail of what I know is gone. But I think there's going to be new retail. I hate to say it, but the whole thing with marijuana, I think we're going to see the pop-up of a lot of those shops.
That's probably the biggest new industry in the city.
Yeah.
It's-
We New Yorkers need to relax, so.
But I
It's a
do
good
think
thing.
the medical field is seeing the value of retail. So
Yeah.
I think it's like everything else in life. It evolves, and go with it.
Yeah, I really love that we have MedRite and urgent care like competing with each other in the Upper East
And now
Side.
dentists are going
Dentists,
to be,
yeah.
you know, it's all
Yeah.
good.
But I love what Shlomi said before we end this. One of my dreams is when I retire, when I'm empty nester, is to have a bookstore with wine and this Filipino pandesal that you just, you know, eat and drink and read, and you know, it's fun. I have to let them. Go ahead, Sarah. One more.
That Mark brought up earlier about energy efficiency and the grades on buildings. And so the two-part question. One is, what's our responsibility as the brokerage community to handle that coming storm? And do you know what boards and buildings in general are thinking as far as how they're going to make those transformations?
It's great, Sarah.
Well, I can tell you as far as I don't know about existing buildings. I think I think the solution to that, which I'm a great supporter of, it's got to come from the top. In order to make it viable and feasible, it's got to be done by the federal government, state, and city. Tax incentives, loans, very special loans that would prompt developers, that would incentivize developers to build green. Because as much as we live in a left-leaning, politically left-leaning city, I don't see people paying a premium to live in a green building over a regular building. Now, and so far from what I see and understand, the costs that are involved with building a green building, a truly green building or a passive building, are higher than a regular building. So the developer has got to look at it and say, look, I believe in the concept. Personally, I do everything I can. But as a business, I got to get a return on my investment. If I build it a certain way, I got to get a return on it. And right now, I just don't think that those incentives are available. And for that to happen, they just have to become available all the way from the top down to the city.
And refitting your existing buildings, I mean, you go by all these buildings, they're all Ds, and I don't think I've seen a C yet. And how can you totally refit an older building? It's almost impossible. I mean, they're refitting the electric meters and whatnot, but you know, you can't change an older building and think, I think new, absolutely, but like many things, you fix the new one and you do the best you can to make the old work and be efficient. But to think you're going to have our older stock as efficient as they're wanting it to be, I think there's no way it's going to happen.
But it's such a great question, Sarah, because we are an old city with a lot of buildings that I think there is a solution, but we got to keep asking the question. I'm an Eagle Scout. I'm very conservation-minded, and I teach Eagle Merit Badges in Sustainability and Environmental Science. And time again, I'm seeing our young people, right? I met your daughter who's now in college, and they're very focused on that. I think if we keep asking the questions, if we keep going, because other cities have done it, there are solutions, but we gotta keep asking questions and exploring. I want to give Diane time to go to her next appointment. I want to thank you all. I want to thank you, these two. Go get a selfie with Diane before she leaves and Shlomi. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
Well done.
This was
Really well
great.
done.
This was great.
Thank you. Let's stay in touch, okay?
Continue, yes, absolutely.
Excellent. Excellent.
I want a selfie with the two of you.